My name is Ken Rosignol. We're here at the Chesapeake Today outdoor studio at Fitzy's Marina, which is now open for the season and home of some of the best crab cakes in Maryland. We're interviewing Scott Ostro, a Republican candidate for the Commissioner District 4 in St. Mary's County in a primary election. Scott, would you tell the readers and the viewers of the Chesapeake Today a little bit about yourself, your professional, business, political experience, where you grew up, and you can leave out the names of your cats, but we'd like to know the names of dogs.
Okay, that we can do, because I don't have any cats.
Okay.
Our dog's name is Winky. My wife and I moved here to St. Mary's County almost 9 years ago. We moved here from the China Lake Ridgecrest area in California. When our son went into the Marine Corps and our daughter went off to college, we decided we did not want to remain in California, and we got to thinking, well, where do we want to go? And my wife came home one day and she said, well, how about St. Mary's County? We know people there. We've been back several times on travel. We have friends. We love the area. It's beautiful. So we started looking into it, and one thing led to another, and it happened very quickly for us. Within 6 months, we were packed up and on our way to beautiful St. Mary's County. Since moving here to St. Mary's County, I worked for several contractors here, federal contractors. I continue to do so. My experience with the base here and both the base in China Lake gives me a very unique insight into things here in St. Mary's County. I'm also very involved within a lot of public organizations here, through Rotary, through our church. We do a lot of outreach ministries as well. We are also very involved in a lot of work with our daughter, who sings and does performances all around the area, so we help her out wherever we can, and we're also very involved with our 2 wonderful grandchildren. So we're very excited to be here and to put down real wonderful roots here in St. Mary's County. My education background is I have a bachelor's degree in business management with an emphasis on finance. I have a master's degree in business management and leadership. And I've worked for several retail companies across the country as well prior to becoming a contractor. So I have a vast knowledge of working with vendors and serving customers, and I've also owned my own business. I started my first small business when I was 19 years old. So I have a fairly good background in understanding the struggles of small business as well. Okay,
you're running as a Republican, and this is budget time for the current county commissioners. Included in their budget is a $26 million entry for a new sheriff's palace. It's over $700,000 in the coming fiscal year. They had no public input, according to 2 of the incumbent commissioners who have been interviewed. No public input in deciding that, and they just said, well, it was the staff and the sheriff's department that said that they needed it. And in the early 90s, there was a space needs study. They came up with a $23 million judicial palace, which the commissioners ultimately turned down and opted to expand the existing courthouse and renovate the 1901 courthouse, which they did, and it's a nice facility. With you being elected this year as a county commissioner, what will you do to that budget request for the $26 million sheriff's headquarters? Will you cancel it? Will you kill it? Will you approve it? How do you feel about it?
Well, one of the big things we have to understand about county government, and as far as commissioners as well, is it's not up to me solely as one commissioner. One of the things you have to learn is you have to be able to form not coalitions, but you have to be able to get at least 3 of your other commissioners to agree to be on board with anything you really want to do. You kind of have to be able to count to 3. So what I would want to do once I'm elected is I definitely think there needs to be a citizens committee looking at that and reviewing that and going over that. I think we need to have That's a lot of money. That is no joke, a lot of money. So I want to see as much transparency as possible with that. I definitely want to dig into that and look at that. Like I said, my background is in finance and business management, so I want to make sure that the taxpayers' money is being managed well and that citizens have an input on what is going on.
Well, Commissioner Hewitt, he said that they offered to give the sheriff the entire building he's in, get rid of the planning and zoning, move the treasurer to a different county office space. And he said, no, they blew up the building in Oklahoma City and we're afraid they'll do the same thing here. That would presuppose that perhaps we should give armored cars to every sheriff's deputy too. If we're looking at terrorist attacks like that on Hooterville, Leonardtown. Do you accept that kind of rationale?
Well, I accept the rationale. I mean, I have not personally spoken to Sheriff Cameron specifically about the new sheriff's facility. I do accept the rationale that, from what I've looked into, that the sheriff does need a centralized headquarters that is farther pushed back from street parking and has that deterrence and can be a little bit more isolated to do command posts and things like that. So I would certainly understand the need for a specific sheriff's headquarters, but like I said, $26 million is a lot of money, and there would have to be I would have to review that, fully understand what all the needs and requirements are, and like I said, have a fully open citizens committee look into that and review that, as well as planning commission as well.
Going directly from the frying pan into the fire, the other hot issue right now is a pot factory in Able. The county commissioners let that go in without any public input. Zero. And the first time they publicly talked about it in their December 2018 meeting, at that point, 5 months earlier, the building permit for it had been approved. It's just incredible. It's almost like reminiscent of 1973 when somebody from Stewart Oil walked into the county commissioner's offices at lunchtime and got a building permit for an oil refinery. So basically, Hooterville government continues in Leonardtown. Despite all their pomp and circumstance, this is what you're getting. And people are really inflamed about the idea of more pot factories going in other residential neighborhoods in critical areas. What will you do to make sure that stops and doesn't happen again?
Well, I tell you, Ken, I have followed that, and I've been out and looked at that facility, and quite frankly, I mean, I was shocked to see that, and I mean, that definitely is an issue and a problem, and something that I plan to look into a lot more closely once I'm in, to avoid something like that happening in the future. Once again, open government. Open government is the key. It's the same thing in business that I practice now. I've been in business and business management for 30, almost 40 years now. You have to have open and transparent, especially in government, especially nowadays. So I am shocked that there wasn't a review of that and that something like that was allowed to be able to get snuck in. So absolutely, I will be looking into that very closely, and I guarantee you on my watch nothing like that will ever happen, because the first thing that I would do is I would instruct staff that anything of that magnitude that needed to be done or planned, I would be notified about, and I would think all the other commissioners would want to be notified about something like that immediately.
Would you fashion yourself to be a low-tax Republican commissioner or a tax and spend Democrat rhino Republican?
Well, if you look at my signs, Ken, I think it'll give you the hint there. My signs in big red letters say lower taxes, and I definitely think, we need to stop milking the taxpayers every year. It's, again, I've worked in federal government for many, many years, and I have seen people who have just no idea of how to run a budget and how to come in on budget and balance a checkbook and make payroll and do all those kind of things, that they just think, they get a government credit card or whatever it is and they can just, the sky's the limit. Well, absolutely not. I think there's a lot of areas within county government. Look, county government is a business, just like any other. And one of the things that I would want to do immediately upon getting in is do a review of all county offices and operations to see where we can trim. There's two things in business I always like to say. You can be effective and efficient. You can be effective and not efficient, and efficient and not effective. But to be truly successful, you need to have both. You need to be effective and efficient. And that's what I want to see. I want to be able to trim redundancies, because any business has them. There's no business anywhere that doesn't have redundancies in areas that when you look at from more of a lean Six Sigma point of view, that you can trim, you can alter, you can pull savings back from that. So most definitely, I am not a tax and spend. I am very frugal with my own personal life. I'm very frugal with my job in contracts and purchasing for the government is to watch out for taxpayers' money and to spend that money wisely. So I will take that same experience to being a county commissioner.
About 25 years ago, the county, with state open space funds, bought the Myrtle Point property with over 2 miles of waterfront. And immediately a group called themselves the Friends of Myrtle Point, who actually were just the neighbors of Myrtle Point. They formed with one thing in mind, and was to block access to the park. They wanted no fishing pier, no boat ramp, no sports fields for kids to play, nothing. And it still is basically almost unused. Would you see to it that the public gets to use their park?
Absolutely. That is of major importance to me. It's why we're here in St. Mary's County. It's a beautiful area. Look where we are right now. I know that the county has also just purchased a lot of land and is working on Snow Hill Park as well, and that's going to be some beautiful areas to bring your boat out and to get out onto the water, have open access there. So I will most definitely look into that and do everything within my power to expand that. That's one of the beauties of St. Mary's County, and we want to be able to attract people here, and we want to be able to attract visitors to come during the summer season and enjoy and enjoy this area. So most definitely will I be doing that.
Okay. St. Mary's County has had FDR Boulevard on the books for at least 30 years, maybe 40, maybe 10 sets of commissioner, and it's still not finished. And some of them take credit for it, actually, instead of running from it, which they should. What would you do to make sure that gets finished, and that somehow the politicians of both parties stop jawboning about the gridlock at Great Mills and the Thomas Johnson Bridge, and get both of those problems addressed, fixed, and projects actually started?
Might also add Route 5 in Leonardtown as well to that.
Well, it's taken them 5 years to do almost nothing for 1 mile of road. I mean, that's, what kind of doofuses do we really have running the state highway? And our representatives, they all showed up to shovel the dirt 5 years ago.
Well, I tell you, Ken, one of the things, again, that I pride myself on, I've worked for almost 20 years for Safeway in retail as a retail store manager. I've worked for almost 17 years now in government as a purchasing and contracting officer. One of the things I pride myself on doing, and it's absolutely vital for both careers, working in retail and working for the government, is you have to be able to form friendships and work with people and partnerships, and that's how it's done. And I think that's one of the things that I can bring a lot of great insight into doing. It's one of the things that I think is a specialty of mine. I'm great at working with people. I can work with anybody, and we can, if we put our heads together and we look at things objectively for the main purpose. I can't see anybody on either side of the aisle not wanting to see FDR completed and get a lot of this traffic congestion straightened out and worked out. And I will work with anybody, and we will, and I have prided myself on being able to do that my entire career, and I expect that to fully continue.
Okay, the county airport, it seems to be maturing with some really good activities there now. to take advantage of it. There's still no flights there. Do you see a time that the county airport could actually attract some sort of scheduled flights or flights to get people to BWI like happens from Salisbury?
Well, I'll give you an analogy for that. We have the same thing. We had the same thing when I lived in Ridgecrest and China Lake. We have a municipal airport there that actually did get United to come in, and they ran what they call the puddle jumper, and it flew in. It was twice a day. It flew out in the morning, and then it flew back in around 4 or 5 in the afternoon for people who were landing. The difficulty with, and eventually United stopped doing it because it just wasn't a moneymaker for them. So I'm not sure that we will ever see a scheduled flights like that coming in and out of our airport here. It's just there's no. It's bottom line for folks like United and things like that. It's business. So if you can't have hourly flights coming in and out, you don't have the customer base for that. I really don't see something like that succeeding. I know they're looking into other options. I heard something about electric vehicles or electric. That's a possibility. Something on the private sector side. But I think the real gem of our airport, of our regional airport, there is that we're doing some amazing research down there. They just put in, it was a $90 million facility there, and they're working on some of the most amazing technology in that area. And I know there's some STEM programs that go on there that the private sector is involved with. So I think that really is the gem for the area, and that's where I think that is going to be a benefit and a plus to us, because everybody loves our airspace here.
Scott, what are your views on the rising crime situation in Lexington Park, and what would you propose to do about it and bring about solutions?
Well, I think my views on it are, I think through COVID, we have a lot of people who are just, there's a lot of frustration out there. I see it in the traffic, I see it in the speeding. People they're just not, I don't know, it's just they're not patient, and I think that is a problem in itself. And I also think that there's a lot of hopelessness and there's a lot of disparity in the Lexington Park area. I've attended many of I just attended one the other day, one of the civic meetings that they had right there at the library, and the biggest takeaway from that, and the comments that I received on my Facebook page when I posted about it, was that the reason people don't attend those, the community doesn't attend those, is because they're tired of the talk. Everybody just gets together and talks, and nothing gets done about it. They talk about all these wonderful plans, and nothing gets done. And I think that is the big problem. The way to handle that is, yes, we need community involvement. We certainly do. But the community, in order to get the community involvement back, the community needs to see things actually being accomplished and actually happening. I intend to do whatever I can to work with the sheriff's department and work through more community-based policing, getting people involved with the sheriff's department. I have some ideas that I want to discuss with the sheriff about ways to get more community involvement with the police department, especially with the youth. I have an idea for a program that I want to talk with them about, and that, I think, through that will encourage more people getting involved. If we don't have the youngsters holding each other accountable, that's where we have the problem. If we have the teenagers and the high schoolers holding each other accountable, then we can do something. We can build on that and we can work from that. But I want to see return on my investment too. If we just put a $6 million sheriff's substation down there on Great Mills Road, and I want to see some return on investment with that. I think it's a great idea. We have community-based police officers. They're out there in the community where they need to be, but I want to see the crime turned around, and I want to work, like I said, I want to work with the sheriff's department to accomplish those goals.
Couldn't they put basketball hoops in the parking lot of that building and turn a building into a semi youth center as well, and community center, instead of just having it closed up and everybody leaves at 4 o'clock?
That that could be an option, though I don't know far as security wise how safe that would be for them if that area does, if there's something that happens there and they need to use that building as a command center and things like that. I think that might be an issue, but I would definitely look into more closely into maybe expanding some of the parks that we have around there and including more of that. And, you know, part of the problem too is in this community, kids, you touched on it just now, kids, and I talked to my daughter who's 24, and I talk to a lot of people when I'm going around and visiting houses and talking with people. There's nothing to do. The kids don't have anything to do. They're bored. So we need to get more things like that within the community, a community basketball league, and you know, a skate park or a roller rink, or how about another bowling alley? We'll have to encourage private sector to put in a bowling alley. Just things for the younger crowd to do here in St. Mary's County.
Scott, what was your impression of Lexington Park when you first came here the first time, and how have you seen it evolve to where it is now, and what would you do to get it to where you think it should be in the future?
Well, I tell you, when my wife and I first moved here almost 9 years ago, we absolutely loved the area. We had so many great friends and we met so many wonderful people. It's sad to see the Lexington Park area, that Great Mills corridor, what I've seen since I've been here. There's just been a tremendous amount of change in that area, and sadly not for the better. I think one of the biggest issues that we have allowed in this county, which I think is we had the same problem in Ridgecrest where we moved from, was we allowed so many businesses to come in and slap up a new building and leave these other buildings alone. And what you end up with, which is what we're starting to run into, especially in the Great Mills area, is you're looking at buildings that are no longer in use, that are falling into disrepair from non-use. I think one of the things to do to revitalize that corridor is to make it to put out to make it a little easier for people to come in, offer some incentives for people to come in and renovate current buildings rather than just building new buildings in their stead and allowing these other buildings to fall down. Or if you really want to build a brand new building, well then fine, pick an existing site, knock that building down, and go ahead and put up your new building. So I think that is a big step towards just beautification and revitalization of the Lexington Park area. One of the other things that I want to see done is, again, we need to encourage more small businesses to get involved in that area and to do more things like, you know, I love what they have over in Leonardtown with the Shepherd's Market there. They've got a lot of small business vendors who maybe perhaps could not afford to get into their own brick and mortar store, but if you get a group of them together, a conglomerate like that, you can have several vendors in there, and look at the success that they're having with that. I would like to encourage more of that in the corridor there in Great Mills. And there's a lot of small businesses and a lot of people with great ideas who just may not have the money to go out and do their own whole store by themselves. So I think that's a very big point.
Some of the operators of small businesses, builders, developers, they point to the county as being obstructionist, and the bureaucrats are taking so long to do everything, and the lag time stretching out over years. And then that adds to the blight, like you see at the corner of Chancellor's Run Road and Great Mills Road, where the old dash in is sitting there just deteriorating and falling down, and the county doesn't enforce any kind of standards to require it to be fixed up or bulldozed. The same thing happened across the street from us, and Bessie Oil let that deteriorate. Finally it got sold, but that was one of the problems. The county obstructs the advancement and development and then fails to enforce the housing and building code. What would you do to crack down on that and get after the land use department to do something in other surreptitious approvals of pot factories?
The biggest key to that is very simple. We are, as elected officials, myself, if and when I am elected, we're public servants. Again, I pull from all my years working in retail. Safeway, when I worked for Safeway, had a thing that they did, which was they insisted on superior service. And that is something that I want to see return to county government. You should be able to go into the county government office, talk to somebody. Look, these are all our neighbors and our friends that we are doing business with. It shouldn't be a fight to get a simple permit done, to get some of these things accomplished. Customer service needs to be the key, and that is one of the driving forces that I will put tremendous amount of effort into accomplishing. I will work with all these departments. We need to understand that, hey, they pay our salaries at the end of the day. They vote us in and out of office. These are important things that we need to make sure that we are giving good service.
Do you have any event or time coming up where people could meet you personally and talk to you? And do you have a website that you can direct people to?
I certainly do. I just had an event, was very successful on the 6th of May. Had a fundraising event at the beautiful Tap House there. It was a very good event, great turnout for that. I do have a Facebook page, Scott Ostro for Commissioner. I have my website, scottostroforcommissioner.com. Anybody can reach out to me through Facebook, through my website. Look a little bit more in detail about the issues that I stand for. That's all up on my website. Reach out to me. My phone number is right on my website. You can call me. My cell phone's always with me. It's always on. I pride myself on returning phone calls immediately and talking. I'll talk to anybody about anything. If you're having concerns, if you have ideas, that's what I'm about. I want to hear what those are. I want to come alongside people and help however that I can.
Okay. Thank you, Scott Ostro.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.